Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. I'm glad that you're here with us live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, streaming at cklu.ca online. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app logo on cklu.ca when you go to the website. You can stream us. You can also download the same Radio Player Canada app and take us with you. Listen to us anytime, anywhere on your favorite device. We're also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News. For the meantime, youtube.com/Sudbury News. And make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe. But mainly comment if you're on YouTube or Facebook. We'll do our best to get the comments read so that way people on the radio who are listening can hear your views on the news. That's what we do here. We facilitate a local conversation on the news and our views on the news, both locally and abroad. And so we'd like to also welcome those who are joining us from around the world, not only Greater Sudbury, North Shore, Ontario, Northern Ontario, Canada, United States, the world. So whether you've lived in Sudbury before and you're checking in, or you're thinking of moving to Sudbury and you want to see what's going on here, and you're just checking in, and it's a great way to do that, to be up to date on what's going on here and how people feel about our great city that we live in. So we've been doing this for a little over a year now, and it's been growing. Facebook, however, and the federal government seeming to put a stick in the spokes of things, but that's all it's going to be. As one door closes, another one's going to open. We could be talking a little bit more about that, as today is the day Facebook is saying they are going to stop sharing news for Canadians on Facebook. And so that would be us included. So when you go to share it, I know Sherry Lynn, who's the moderator for Valley East Community Facebook page, messaged me last night and said, hey, you're no longer able to share your news. I went on to Sudbury News Facebook page and it says, no, not available or whatever. So for her, it started, I was able to call a few of my friends to go on. They were still able to see it. But they said Tuesday, today's the day. We'll see. It's a very unknown, uncharted territory where we're at. But anyways, let's just dive right into the stories we've had over the weekend. Hope everyone's had a great long weekend. We're back. We're here. It is Tuesday, August the 8th. Happy birthday to my mom, if she's listening, yesterday, and to my brother, if he's watching today. Happy birthday. They have back-to-back birthdays. And so happy birthday. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday to you as well. We'll have some weather. We'll come back. We'll do some morning salutations. We'll get right into the news and the thick of things right after this. And Sudbury Weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. It lives on sudbury.news's Facebook or web page. And that may be where we're going to be going more and more as Facebook is following the orders of our fearless leader in our country to say, you're no longer allowed to share news to our people because, first of all, it's dangerous. And second of all, you're not paying them. We're paying them to make news. And so you can't share it anymore. So that's in a nutshell. That's my take on it, my quick take on it. So it's no longer able to be shared. That's how much power our government has. It's able to tell Facebook what to do. Pretty powerful, no? Google too. So here you go, 14 degrees currently, partly cloudy. And today we can expect sunny this morning, then a mix of sun and cloud with 30% chance of showers this afternoon, risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon. And the high will be 25, the humidex 28, UV index will be 7 or high. Tonight, mainly cloudy, 30% chance of showers early this evening with a risk of thunderstorm, clearing before morning, low of 14. Tomorrow, sunny in the morning and then a mix of sun and cloud with a 60% chance of showers in the afternoon. Risk of thunderstorm again tomorrow in the afternoon. Seems like afternoons are the time that there's risks of thunderstorms from the last week or two. And the high will be 20 late in the afternoon, 26. The high is 26, humidex 29, UV index is 7 or high. As we said, tomorrow 60% chance of showers, high of 26. Thursday, 40% chance of showers, high of 22. Same thing for Friday. 60% chance for Saturday of showers, high of 20. So a little cooler. It's starting to get cooler. 30% chance of showers on Sunday. So a lot of showers forecasted, possibility of showers for the next 5 days, and then cloudy on Monday. High of 20 is your forecast anyways for the 6-day forecast. This image was taken yesterday. Let's see if we have a little bit more of an updated one here. Satellite image, that is. Because this one was almost 24 hours ago. But I'm sure it's similar to this. Anyways, a lot of activity. As you know, we had a lot of rain yesterday in Greater Sudbury, and this isn't loading anymore. So that is what it is. It's technology at its finest. That is your Sudbury weather. We'll be back with your good morning salutations, your news headlines, and views on the news when we come back right after this. Okay, and we are indeed back, and we're going to get started with some headlines here. But first, some people joining us, and morning salutations to Judy. Good morning. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday, and I hope everyone had a fine long weekend here in Ontario. Civic long weekend, civic holiday. Good morning, Sudbury. Nice hand clapping emoji. That is Monique. Thanks for being with us. Looks like quite a few people joining us this morning. So Denise, blessings from Espanola. Yes, blessings from Espanola indeed. Denise, if Canada is a corporation and the U.S., what's a country? So if Canada is a corporation and the USA also, I think you're saying, what is a country? Well, a country is a corporation as well. Yeah, that's a good question. I think not a lot of us know what a country actually is. There weren't always countries, you know. Countries are a new concept, relatively new in our history. Before there used to be empires and you know, just areas and no countries. But countries is a relatively new thing, with everybody abiding by some kind of order or laws. And so I think it's something that's coming and going. We're now seeing the dismantling of what we once knew as countries. We didn't really define what a country was in the first place before I was getting to the idea of dismantling it, but maybe in future shows we can do some deep dives into that. Necessity is the mother of invention. This is Belinda. We will find a way. Thank you very much for that positive saying again this morning. Necessity is the mother of invention. We will find a way. That's good. Yeah, always think outside the box. People are innovative, and we always find our way out of conundrums. Morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us. Denise. That's how weak our people are to allow it. Interesting. Yes, for sure. Maurice, good morning. Sunshine. Happy face, for sure. Love the emojis, by the way, and good morning. Hope you're having a great Tuesday, Marisa. Maurice, sorry. And then Danica, good morning, everyone. Heart emoji. Feeling the love here. Jesse, is the Canadian government, including MP, a sham? Yeah, these are the questions one might ask of ourselves and others. Michelle, good morning, everyone. Nice, sunny, smiley emoji, and hope you're having a good Tuesday as well. And Lise, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So there's a good little bunch of us on. Lots to talk about today, as usual. Let's dive right in. So this will probably be the theme of today's show, setting it up. Just this story right off the hop. Bylaw replaces private security at Sudbury Transit Terminal. A city spokesperson said recent trends have shown increased volume and severity of security-related incidents at the downtown transit hub. So contracted security guards are out and municipal law enforcement officers are in. I guess it's become, they said, so bad that they have to get rid of the contracted security guards and have city employees because of the recent trends, increased volume and severity of security related incidents at the downtown transit hub. So that's the way we're going to deal with it, is to have city employees down there, law enforcement taking care of things. As we will get into, there was an incident over the weekend, another fatality downtown to start, I guess, the accumulation for this year as well. Last year was a record year. We'll get into that as well for murders. Sudbury musician Peter Scherzinger releases first solo album. I'd love to play you a clip from this, so remind me to come back, maybe halfway and give it a little bit of a breather, halfway point of the show, and play a clip. I love this particular style of jazz, and it's great that it's coming from Sudbury. Crashing Through the Shadows features a variety of styles and guest appearances from the musician's family and friends. Pretty exciting. Okay. Yeah, so that was Sherry Lynn. I might have said Cheryl Lynn earlier. Sherry Lynn, who is the the moderator for Valley East Community's Facebook page. As she wasn't able to get our news yesterday on Facebook. Belinda says, whoever did the planning to put a liquor store in a problematic area didn't really think that through. Yeah, the Tim Hortons and the liquor store right beside each other, right, kind of squished in downtown. Don't even know if they followed all the city bylaws and things when it comes to businesses and stuff like that. Sometimes you shake your head. Then the taxpayers take the bill. Security without a job. That's alluding to the story we just said about the downtown transit going to city-paid officials instead of contracted security guards. Denise, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Good morning, everyone. So most Canadians against the carbon tax hike. Now, unfortunately, I don't have these stories in order, local and national stories. I'm just going to go through them. It is what it is. I shared them yesterday or all through the weekend. There was 3 days worth of sharing different stories. So we're going to be hopping back from local to national, basically. Michelle says, all the homeless people in this area, as they have no housing. COVID-19 results. Yeah, let's definitely have a homelessness crisis here in Sudbury, along with an opioid crisis. And you put the two of them together, they don't make for a very nice combination. For sure, we will be talking about that later in the show, for sure. Okay, Denise says, many more homes about to be taken by the banks. More homelessness coming. So that's a prediction from Denise. And I happen to think you might have a point there. As inflation rises, record levels, and we don't seem to be coming back from it anytime soon. All indications point to that. Most Canadians against a carbon tax hike. No, really? A Nanos poll found most Canadians are against the carbon tax hikes as they see it as ineffective in the fight against climate change. Well, you'd never know that if you listened to mainstream media. At least they're reporting on a poll of what Canadians think instead of telling us what we think or what we should think. What does the LCBO have to do with anything? Drunkenness doesn't seem to be a problem there. Okay, that was from Stephen. All right, so there was a collision on Highway 637 in Killarney, which closed Highway 69 at that intersection yesterday. I hope you weren't involved in that, and I hope all the people involved in that collision were safe. And Sandy also says, hope no one was seriously hurt. Back to, I guess, the idea of the carbon. Oh, sorry, here we got... So Belinda says she's against it. I guess that is the carbon tax. Who can afford it? Trudeau wants us all on bicycles. Yeah, us on bicycles for sure. He in a chauffeured limo or SUV and in a private jet. So, all right, green electricity means rising costs for consumers. Federal memo states. Moving to green electricity will mean higher costs for consumers. That's from a staff memo sent to Federal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault. I wonder if he read it, according to Blacklock's reporter. We know that, right? That green electricity is going to cost more because there's less of it and there's more and more need for it as Canada's, just talking Canada, not the world. Our population is growing, right? Because we have a huge immigration policy and we just reached the 40 million mark. And so our country is growing. The dependency on electricity is higher and higher. And we're now going to energy sources that produce way less, cost more to produce, very less effective and very inefficient. And so who's going to be able to get electricity in the near future is the question we ask. Only the rich will be able to afford it. I thought we cared about the poor. Denise says in China, they got them on bikes. Then slowly nobody went out of their houses. The bikes are now in a very large field rotting in China. Today they scream freedom or death. Yeah, you know what I saw? I think it was the electric bike. There was some kind of an electric bike. They just mass made them and no one's even riding them. They're just kind of like a bike graveyard. Belinda, have you been downtown? Okay, to Stephen, I guess, yeah. There's, Stephen said that the liquor store has nothing to do with any of the violence possibly that's downtown kind of thing, that has nothing to do that it's right in the middle of the city. Unaffordable energy, Vin says, Trudeau's policy in a summary, for sure. Well, what happens is you're seeing, so let's say the world was on life support plugged in, right? And we were plugged in with all the sources of energy we've always had. Right now, you're seeing the global elite just saying, okay, we're just going to pull the plug on everything we've ever existed on and historically been improving on the efficiency of and the emissions of to make it more and more sustainable and green energy, the fossil fuels I'm talking about. And they're pulling the plug on that. And they're going to have a less effective, sustainable, supposedly it's not really sustainable when you look at it. It's less sustainable than the other forms of fuel because you have to buy the windmills from China, all the parts. They are very inefficient. If there's no wind, it doesn't move. They rust. They kill birds. They kill whales and they put them in the ocean. So they're killing our environment. They produce very little electricity, and you have to keep replacing them every so many years. They look horrid on the landscapes. And then you have solar panels as well, which you have to mine incredible amounts of silicon and different things to make the solar panels. Makes us even more dependent on China to make these things. Chips from Taiwan, you name it. We're putting ourselves in a very vulnerable situation for very ineffective, very expensive forms of energy that aren't reliable. So give your head a shake, Canada and world. But again, it's all part of the plan, right? Because the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's always the plan of the ruling elite. Even though they tell you something different, if you buy it, it's up to you. You can buy it all you want. But you're no different than anyone who's bought anything historically anyways, from tyrannical kings or tyrannical governments who tell their citizens something different than what they're actually doing. Winter's coming. Buckle up. It's going to be tough for many Canadians for sure. Niger is pulling their contracts with France for uranium. Should get an interesting response from the Western nations. That's from Vin. For sure. And distraction is for sure. It's a distraction as they wire up the planet like a web and place. Okay, a lot of bold letters here, hard to read. So they got the towers every 2 kilometers. Fusion energy needs big cables. It's not better at all. Yeah, and you talk about the 5G as well. So they need more towers for the 5G technology, even for our wireless technology. It's kind of like the old DC energy. So Tesla came out and invented alternate current, AC. And DC was there before, and it needed towers, so many towers to transport it. Not towers, but it needed generators every so many kilometers, whereas AC could go farther. It was a way better technology than DC was in electricity. So it seems like in wireless technology, we're kind of going backwards in some regards. That's a whole other deep dive too into what 5G really is and what it's here for, and talk about what they tell us and what it's really for, you know, if you really look into it. And if I talk about things that governments tell us and doing something different, you just have to ask yourself, has that ever happened in history where a government has told the people something and did something totally different? Has that ever happened ever in history, even once? Can you think of one example somewhere? And could that ever happen again? You know? And if you buy it, shame, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. However that thing goes, fool me once. Shame on me, fool me twice. Remember George Bush botched it up and I'm doing the exact same thing. Anyways, just don't get fooled. To quote George Bush. We had some technical difficulties the other day. CTV Northern Ontario was not able to do their newscast due to technical difficulties. And that same day, I was listening to CBC. Yes, I do that. I listen to CBC quite often. And I was listening to it, and they said just coming up the news, and it was just, they just kept playing jazz. So their programming was botched as well. So I'm not sure what happened there with their programming, but definitely something happened in the world of news, whether it was CTV, CBC, they both had technical difficulties and were not able to deliver the news. It had nothing to do with Facebook not sharing news, which they have now apparently started to do, or said that today was the day they were going to stop doing it. So, not sure what happened there. Maybe they're all going green and they're starting to have blackouts and brownouts and stuff. Okay, so Saturday morning shooting, victim succumbs to their injuries. Greater Sudbury Police has confirmed through social media that this morning's shooting victim has died. A suspect is in custody and a handgun was recovered. This on the heels of a report, Greater Sudbury's Violent Crime Severity Index hits record high. So at 137.9, Greater Sudbury's Violent Crime Severity Index is the highest it has ever been since Statistics Canada began recording statistics in 1998, and is the third highest among the 36 Canadian metropolitan areas listed in their latest report. So did you know that? That Sudbury's the third highest for violent crimes out of 36 Canadian metropolitan areas. Not something I think we want to be particularly proud of. Maybe we can start to look at doing things like that. Maybe having city employees doing security at the downtown bus station is a step in the right direction. I don't know. That's something we just did. So speaking of action we're taking, right? That's the action I could see we took. So we'll see if that affects our severity, a crime severity index, as being the third worst in Canada at all. And Denise says loads of guns have been missing from RCMP. And now this, I did not know that. There's missing guns going from the RCMP. How's that even possible? Reminds me of the shooting spree that happened in Nova Scotia a couple of years back. Very suspicious stuff there. Yeah, I don't know. The RCMP, I have no idea. How do guns go missing? Family-friendly activities were set up throughout Cape Real on Saturday for the annual Cape Real Days festivity related to, slated to continue to the evening. So it went all the way through Saturday and Sunday. There's some photos that we shared from Sudbury.com. If you're indeed able to go on our Facebook page and see the news that we shared from Sudbury.com, you will be able to see those photos from Cape Real Days. And Natalie was able to remind us, I think, on Friday about Cape Real Days. Good morning, Tracy. Bit late this morning. That's fine. Better late than never, as the saying goes. At least I got that saying right. Spark can help Sudburyans apply for Better Jobs Ontario. So yeah, there's a program. It used to be called Second Career. And now if you find yourself unemployed for a while and it's a hard time getting a job, Better Jobs Ontario, you can go through them and they might be able to give you some incentives to take a course that's 52 weeks or less. It used to be 2 years, so you can go and get a diploma, but now they've kind of brought it back to under 52 weeks. So whatever you're able to find that you can get some kind of certification in under 52 weeks, that's the new Second Career. It's now called Better Jobs Ontario. So you can check that out through any of your employment agencies, your local employment agencies. They can help you with that. Sudbury Letter. Cities should not be maintaining valet property for free. Oh my. That's something too. Maybe we'll come back to that tomorrow, as I know Shane should be joining us tomorrow. Shane will be co-hosting with me or be a guest on the show tomorrow. Maybe we can go into that, talk about valet. Should we be maintaining their property for free? Frank says, if you think you're going to push valet, think again. They'll just fence off and erect signs that say, keep off their property. It's cheaper that way. And for us, it will be unaccessible, unmaintained, fenced off eyesore in all surrounding communities. Valet owns a lot of property in and around Sudbury, and this will most definitely not work out in our favor. So yeah, this is an ongoing discussion that we've had for years. Are they paying enough taxes? You know, they're just paying taxes on their above ground buildings. You know, nothing really stays in Sudbury in terms of taxes from what they're taking out of the ground. We're maintaining their properties now, apparently. I never knew that. According to this letter, that's what we're doing. So they're saying, why should we be doing that when they're making billions of dollars? And maybe they should maintain their own properties. But like this gentleman said, well, if we do that and we stop, they'll just, their properties will look like eyesores because they'll just maintain them the way that they want. And if they don't think it's a priority, they just won't do that. Sudbury Theatre reach 1 million milestone. According to the Sudbury Star, that's how much ticket sales were for Yes Theatre and Sudbury Theatre Centre. And with that, my wife and I went to see Jersey Boys this weekend, and it was a fabulous performance. It was so amazing. Alessandro Constantini, who heads up the Sudbury Theatre Centre, former Yes, and now merging with the Sudbury Theatre Centre. He was the lead performer. He played Frankie Valli. What an excellent job he did. If you have a chance, they think they've extended it to the 13th of August. Get some tickets. Our show was sold out. We went to, and I could see why. It was the best. It was so good. If you've seen the movie Jersey Boys and you haven't had a chance to see the live performance, this live performance was right on the, you know, in terms of quality. It was right up there. It was like watching Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. It was so good. And the story, if you're not aware of their story, it's worth watching. To me, it's like Goodfellas meets Grease. And it's a true story, and it's a great one. So not only great music, I'm not a musical fan. I don't like musicals. I don't think it's, to me, just people just start breaking out in song. It just doesn't, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. But it's a musical group, so there's music in this, and they have so many hit songs. You'll go there and you'll be like, I didn't realize how many hit songs the Four Seasons had, or even Frankie Valli for that matter. A long weekend brings drop in gas prices, but little change in Northern Ontario. This goes back to my question I asked on Friday. Do we know why gas prices are the way they are? Is there somebody who can tell us why gas prices just go up through the roof all of a sudden and then trickle down, and why they go up when they do? Doesn't seem to be based on any supply and demand, according to what Stephen's suggestion was on Friday. Has nothing to do with supply and demand. Our gas prices, if you really look into it, goes down for no reason. It goes up for no reason. It's more expensive in different areas than others for no reason. You know, it's like, why do you pay for a car in the United States $10,000 less even after all of the exchange and things like that? Why is a car $10,000 less per average for a car in the United States than it is in Canada? Why is that? We make cars here in Canada too, but it's $10,000 more in Canada. That's before taxes and any other things when you factor in the exchange rates. So that's the question. But for Northern Ontario, so the start of the long weekend has brought an atypical decrease in gas prices for much of Ontario, but not in much of the north. I wonder why. What supply and demand factors come into play with that? Probably zero. Goes back to my question. Why the different gas prices? What's up with gas prices in the first place? You just got to keep asking. Is there anyone who really knows? And if they do profess that they know, I'm going to keep asking them questions. Okay, how did you know that? Where did you get that from? Are you sure that's what it is? And eventually it's going to get to, no, we don't really know. No one really knows why gas prices just go up. Is it collusion? Well, if it was collusion, why isn't somebody being charged? Collusion's against the law. Corporate collusion. Not supposed to do that. I don't know, right? So are we ever going to get to the bottom of it? Vin's putting out there that population versus income is the alleged reasoning for Sudbury fuel prices, yet Cartier gas is still more than Sudbury. So, exactly. And no matter what, the question keeps coming up is, what's up with gas prices? Now, I guess we're going into what we're going to end with today on the show. 2 people face drug charges in Sudbury. A Sudbury woman and a Southern Ontario man are facing charges after a drug raid at the flour mill home that netted $271,000 in narcotics. Looks like they got a handgun there too on the table. So what's up with that? So as I said earlier, we're going to have a little bit of a break because I did want to share this this song from a Sudbury artist, jazz. So we'll have a little bit of a little intermission here. So active in the music scene for many years, Peter Scherzinger, his music career came to a sudden halt during the pandemic. Although he retired as a music director at LaSalle Secondary School approximately 6 years ago, Scherzinger has continued to keep himself busy through a couple jazz group and a classical group. All performance shutting down during quarantine, he basically started recording this stuff. And so here's one of his recordings. You can listen to his tracks on the album entitled. You can listen to this track we're going to play right now. It's called The Monster Fish on Wheels. Love the name. Listen to how cool this is. We'll be back right after this. Wasn't that just the coolest? Is it just me? I don't know. I'm a musician. Not necessarily. I love jazz. It's hard to listen to sometimes because it's so good. I think it's just too much going on and my brain can't handle it. But love jazz, and I love that kind of jazz. And I can handle that kind of jazz because it's not just so all over the place, but really great. Peter Scherzinger. You can catch more of him. Just Google his name. You can catch the latest album. Greater Sudbury's Violent Crime Severity Index hits record high. Greater Sudbury's Violent Crime Severity Index hit a record high for the region last year with its 37.9 ranking, putting it number 3 amongst 36 metropolitan areas listed. This, according to Statistics Canada 2022 Crime Severity Index report released last week. The index has been recorded since 1998. As we said before, the jump shouldn't come as too great a surprise for those following local news, with Greater Sudbury Police Service reporting in June a 5.3% jump in violent offenses last year. This included a record-setting 12 homicides recorded in 2022. At the same time, Police Chief Paul Pedersen, Chief Pedersen clarified that the vast majority of violent incidents involve victims and offenders known to each other, so they're not a danger to strangers. He noted that there had been an increase in violence related to guns, gangs, and drugs in the community. So now we see an example of that. This Saturday, there was a victim of a shooting. The victim in the shooting had died. Greater Sudbury Police Service broke the news in a tweet issued at 11:12 Saturday, in which they note the victim was at Health Sciences North when they succumbed to their injuries. Although police also noted the person responsible was in custody, they are only considered a suspect at this point, as they've yet to go through the legal system. Police also reported that a handgun was recovered from the scene. I wonder if it was registered. I hope it was registered. And there is no believed threat to public safety. Sudbury.com reached out to police for additional insight, but have yet to hear back. So on that note, we're wondering what the heck is going on. Is there connections between, why the rise in crime? Like, what's going on here? They said gangs, guns, are on the rise in Sudbury for the violent crimes. And we talked much about our approach to the opioid crisis in town and the idea of harm reduction versus rehabilitation. And so Aaron Gunn, who's a reporter from the West Coast, really has his finger on the pulse in British Columbia, which seems to be a trendsetter according to harm reduction practices in Ontario, funded by the federal government. By the way, even though health is a provincial thing, somehow the federal government is getting into the health game. And so we'll just hear what Aaron Gunn's ideas are. It also goes in line with the reporter we're talking about how we deal with the opioid crisis. And ask yourself, could this be a link of why our violent crime is going up in Greater Sudbury?
The pro-drug advocates are trying to create a false binary based on political debates from the 1990s that were before my time of being politically aware.
The just say no era of drug policy, right?
Yeah. So it's I mean no one's seriously talking about treating addicts who are addicted to drugs as criminals, as some kind of hardened criminal, but it's about whether we as a society say being addicted to drugs to the point where you are unable to look after yourself, let alone anybody else, let alone being a productive member of society, is something that should be socially acceptable. That's not to say that we need to punish people. It actually says the opposite, that we need to help them and get them out of there. But it's about what are we willing to accept, what are we willing to tolerate. And so they try to create this false binary because I think it's useful for them politically. But it's no one's having that debate anymore. It's not the 1990s. And so I think, and I think to your point about it's gotten so much worse, I think that when you're in a situation where you're using certain substances that have the power to wreak so much social and economic chaos on a city, on a society, on a province, on a country, they just can't just be this free for all, because the natural question ends up, who's dealing with the consequences? Who's paying for all the police bills? Who's paying for the ambulance bills? Who's paying for the social welfare bills and all the other ills? Who's paying for the criminal justice system, who's looking after the widow of someone whose husband was brutally stabbed in broad daylight by someone who was going through drug psychosis triggered by crystal meth. So there's all these massive externalities, I think, that are being driven by the addictions crisis, and to ignore that, you can't ignore it, and you get what British Columbia has turned into and what much of Canada has turned into over the past 20 years.
Yeah, and it does seem like there has been a bit of regret, maybe is the right word, on some people that have been a part of pushing this evolution in policy. I mean, one example you interview is a physician from my city of London, Ontario, Sharon Koivu, who has, it seems like, gone perhaps not as far as some people, but she's pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, and the mayor of Nanaimo as well, who was an NDP MLA for many years. Because I think obviously we want to be compassionate. The idea of harm reduction, which actually was born out of the AIDS epidemic, was to try to keep people alive and decrease harm in society to individuals while we're trying to get them help. The problem is the harm reduction policies that have been implemented have been escalated to such a point where it's quite obvious to me they're actually creating more harm. So, for example, with the safe supply, which to me, by the way, is a complete oxymoron and is born out of this fallacy that there's some kind of poison drug crisis, when in reality the drugs are the poison. Mm-hmm. I mean, fentanyl is not being poisoned. Fentanyl is a poison, and me or you could take pure fentanyl out of a pharmacy and be dead pretty quickly. So the safe supply program, though, that they're flooding the market with these drugs, but these drugs are then being diverted and being resold on the black market and traded for fentanyl and other things that the addicts actually want. And then these hydromorphone pills are now being resold on college campuses, on university campuses, at high schools, to young kids, and starting and creating the next generation of addicts, creating more harm down the road. A perfect example of this, we talked to an addictions counselor, Andrew, in, it was anonymous, so I'll just say a city in British Columbia. And she said 2 years ago, about 90% of the people, 95% of the people that came in were addicted to fentanyl. The patients that were walking into the addictions clinic who needed help and were trying to get off the addiction. The rest was a remainder of some benzos or Oxycontin still or things like that. So in the last 6 months, 50% of the people that have walked through that door are addicted to hydromorphone, which is the drug that the government is handing out. Wow. So we are literally creating the next generation of addicts. And to me, that's not harm reduction, that's harm creation. And clearly the policy hasn't been working. And I think the problem is a lot of these politicians have, become so wedded to this, they've staked their reputation on this idea. They're going to be very reluctant to walk it back, unfortunately.
In the political realm, is this strictly a left-right issue? Because it certainly looks like one, whereas the people that are standing up and saying Canada is dying are people that are on the right, and then you get people like Justin Trudeau who say it's offensive to say that Canada is broken and we can't acknowledge there's a problem. But I'm wondering if when you delve down to the local level or even the provincial level, if you see a little bit more nuance on both sides of this.
I mean, I think, of our political leadership right now, it certainly seems to be a left-right issue, but I think among Canadians, it is decidedly not a left-right issue. I mean, I'm pretty openly conservative, but... And
I should say, Pierre Poilievre gave this film quite an endorsement on Twitter. We have the tweet up there, so the leader of the Conservatives obviously sees what you're saying here and agrees with it, but yeah, so you're saying on the local level, that isn't just a left-right.
Yeah, for example, with Vancouver's Dying in this documentary as well, I had so many people reach out to me who said, I actually don't agree with you on almost anything, but I agree with you 100% on what's going on in Vancouver, or insert my home city here, that this isn't right, this clearly hasn't been working. Because to me, the reason why it's not a left-right issue among the public is because the results are happening in front of our eyes. Like, we've run the experiment for the past 20 years. If this is success, I don't know what failure looks like. And I would also point out, I'm traveling right now filming the next documentary in Europe, and I mean, this is not, this handing out of free drugs is not something that people on the left or the right, in the vast majority, if not all of these countries, would think is a reasonable approach or a smart idea. I mean, just the insanity of this, Andrew. I mean, the government of British Columbia is currently suing Purdue Pharmaceuticals for marketing OxyContin as safe when it wasn't, as non-addictive when it wasn't, and then flooding the market, flooding the streets with this drug, which ended up getting millions of people addicted in North America and leading to the deaths of over 100,000 people. Now, what the British Columbian government is doing, in conjunction with Trudeau, is handing out en masse opioids that are even more powerful than OxyContin and marketing them as safe supply and watching them as they flood into the streets and get a whole new generation. They're doing the exact same thing that Purdue did, but worse, and they're suing Purdue for it. So I don't know if they're going to sue themselves next. It's sad, though, because there's obviously a very real human cost to this, and there's going to be, unfortunately, a lot more dead Canadians as a result of what the government is doing.
Since you brought up Europe, I have to ask about that. I mean, is Canada an outlier in this, or is Canada following a model that we see somewhere else in the world?
Canada is at the vanguard of insanity right now when it comes specifically to the distribution of opioids and handing out free drugs. I mean, the OxyContin crisis, which I thought everyone on the left and right kind of unanimously agreed Purdue was wrong and it was a disaster and we shouldn't have handed out opioids as freely as we did, and it created a huge generation of addicts, and many of them overdosed and died. I thought that was a consensus. In Europe, they never had the same problem because they were much more restrictive with prescription drugs than we are over here. There's much less drug use in general in Europe than there is in North America. So I thought we had learned that lesson. So they have different, there's harm reduction. There's much less of it over there, but there are safe injection sites and things like that. But the most insidious part, I think, of what's happening in Canada right now is this so-called safe supply, is the distribution of free drugs. And as far as I can tell, or my research has shown, that is not happening anywhere. Canada's at the forefront of that, and Vancouver is leading the parade. So it's certainly. I mean, we had lunch with somebody in Sweden the other day, and they couldn't even believe the story that we were telling them about what's going on in British Columbia. And I should point out, by the way, the activists that are pushing these policies don't want it to stop at hydromorphone and these powerful opioids. They actually want a safe supply of fentanyl, a safe supply of crack, a safe supply of crystal meth. That is where they want to go. That is their finish line. So hopefully people start waking up to some of these facts.
And I think that's where we're going in Sudbury as well. I think we had an entourage go down to Toronto and look at what Toronto is looking at, taking the Vancouver model and running with it. And they've already started, right? So what you've seen in Vancouver, if you've seen it, you can just take your fingers, these things on the ends of your hand, go down on your keyboard and go drug crisis in Vancouver in YouTube and look at the streets. So you don't even have to fly there. With technology today, there's cameras and it's something called the internet, and video can come right to your eyes through your screen and listen in your ears, and then it goes into your brain, and your brain thinks and makes decisions. And you can say, what's going on in Vancouver? Is that working? And now Toronto is adopting the exact same methodology of dealing with addiction. And Sudbury now, I guess we want to be really good friends with the movers and shakers in Toronto, and we want to be their great younger brother or something. I have no idea why, but we're going to just do exactly what Toronto's doing. And we've already seen what we've already done down this harm reduction road, and we're the third worst city in Canada for severe crime. So do we want to be first? Maybe we could be first at something, right? It could be Canada's most dangerous city. How about that? Instead of being Canada's resourceful city, we can be Canada's most dangerous city. Because we're heading there. We're third, right? It's pretty close. Bronze medal. Not bad. Anyways, that was a little bit of insight from somebody who knows what he's talking about with this stuff. You can listen to it or not. You can take it in or you can check it out. It's up to you because you are the boss of you still for a little while. Anyways, and this has been Sudbury News Talk on CKLU 96.7 FM. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Hope you had a great long weekend. Glad to be back. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow with Shane on the show. And look forward to seeing him tomorrow and having that conversation with him and all y'all. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU. Have a great, wonderful Tuesday, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.